1972. Sammy Davis Jr. was 46 years old and fighting for relevance. His agent sent him a song from the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It was called The Candy Man. Sammy hated it. "I'm not singing a children's song," he said. "I'm a serious entertainer." His agent begged, "Just record it. One take. If it fails, we never mention it again." Sammy agreed reluctantly. That one take, the song he didn't want to record, the song he thought would embarrass him, became his only #1 hit, the unexpected triumph that saved his career, but also typecast him forever. Because sometimes success comes in a package you don't want, and you have to decide whether winning on someone else's terms is still winning. January 1972. Sammy Davis Jr. was in trouble. Not the kind of trouble that makes headlines, but the slow, creeping kind that ends careers. His last hit record had been in 1965. 7 years ago. In the music industry, 7 years without a hit might as well be a lifetime. Radio stations weren't playing him anymore. Young audiences didn't know who he was, and the older audiences who did know him were starting to forget. Worse, he was radioactive. 6 months earlier, in August 1971, Sammy had hugged Richard Nixon at the Republican National Convention on national television. In front of millions of people, the backlash from the black community had been immediate and devastating. Protesters picketed his shows. Radio stations pulled his records. Concert bookings dried up. At 46 years old, Sammy Davis Jr., who'd been performing since he was 3, who'd overcome racism and violence and death threats, who'd broken barriers and opened doors, was facing the possibility that his career was over. His manager, Cy Marsh, knew they needed something big. A hit. Something that would remind people why Sammy mattered. Something that would get him back on the radio. MGM Records had an idea. There was this song from a children's movie that had come out the year before, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The movie had been a modest success, nothing spectacular, but there was one song that had stuck with people, a cheerful, optimistic tune about a candy man who could make the world taste good. MGM thought Sammy should record it. Cy brought the sheet music to Sammy's house in Beverly Hills. They sat in Sammy's study, and Cy played the demo tape. Sammy listened for about 30 seconds. Then he stopped the tape. "No," he said. "Sammy, just hear it out." "No. Absolutely not. I'm not recording that." Sammy tried again. "It's a good song. Catchy. People like it. It's a children's song," Sammy said, his voice hard. "I've spent my entire career building credibility as a serious entertainer. I've performed on Broadway. I've recorded jazz standards with Count Basie. I've sung with Sinatra. And you want me to record a song about candy? It's not about candy. It's about optimism. Hope. Making the world better. It's from a kid's movie about chocolate." Cy knew when Sammy got stubborn like this, arguing wouldn't work. But he also knew they were running out of options. "Sammy," he said quietly, "when was your last hit?" Sammy didn't answer. 1965. "I've Gotta Be Me. 7 years ago. Do you know how many radio stations are playing your music right now? 0. Do you know how many concert bookings we've got lined up for next year? 12. You used to do 200 shows a year. Now we can barely book 12. So your solution is for me to humiliate myself by singing nursery rhymes? My solution is for you to have a hit record. I don't care if it's about candy or cars or the moon. A hit is a hit, and right now, you need one." Sammy stood up, walked to the window. Outside, the Los Angeles sun was setting over his pool, his perfectly maintained lawn, his expensive cars, all of it paid for by a career that was slipping away. "If I record this," Sammy said, not turning around, "and it fails, I look desperate and pathetic. If I don't record it, and someone else does, and it becomes a hit, I look like an idiot who turned down a hit. Either way, I lose." Or, Cy said, "You record it, it becomes a hit, and you get your career back." Sammy turned around. "And if it becomes a hit, I'm the guy who sings the candy song for the rest of my life. Is that what you want my legacy to be? Sammy Davis Jr., the Candy Man. I want your legacy to be that you survived, that you adapted, that when your career was dying, you found a way to save it. Pride doesn't pay the bills, Sammy. Hits do." They stared at each other. Finally, Sammy sighed. "One take," he said. "I'll give you one take. If we nail it, fine. If we don't, we move on. I'm not spending weeks in the studio perfecting a children's song." "Deal," Cy said, trying not to smile. The recording session was scheduled for February 1972 at MGM Studios in Los Angeles. Sammy showed up on time, which for him was unusual. He was dressed casually, not in his usual recording attire. This wasn't an event. This was an obligation he wanted to finish as quickly as possible. Mike Curb, who was producing the session, had assembled a full orchestra, strings, brass, the works. He wanted this to sound big, professional, like a real Sammy Davis Jr. record, not a throwaway track. Sammy looked at the arrangement, looked at the orchestra, looked at Mike. "This is a lot of production for a song I don't want to record," he said. "If we're doing it right," Mike replied. They did a quick run-through with the orchestra. Sammy sang it flat, emotionless, just hitting the notes without any of the warmth or energy that usually characterized his performances. Mike stopped the session. "Sammy, can I talk to you for a second?" They stepped into the booth. "I know you don't want to be here," Mike said. "I know you think this song is beneath you, but you're Sammy Davis Jr. You don't do anything halfway. Even if you hate this song, sing it like you mean it. Because if you put this out sounding like you don't care, it'll be worse than not recording it at all." Sammy was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "You're right. I'm being unprofessional. Let's do it properly." They went back out. The orchestra started again, and this time Sammy committed. He sang it with warmth, with energy, with the kind of genuine emotion that made people believe he meant every word. He wasn't just hitting notes, he was selling a feeling, joy, optimism. The idea that life could be sweet if you knew where to look. One take. That's all it took. When he finished, the orchestra applauded. Mike was grinning in the booth. Sammy took off the headphones, walked into the control room, listened to the playback. "It's good," he admitted. "I still hate that I'm recording it, but it's good." "It's more than good," Mike said. "It's a hit." "We'll see," Sammy said. He didn't sound convinced. MGM released the single in April 1972. They didn't have high expectations. It was Sammy Davis Jr. recording a song from a children's movie. Nice, but not earth-shattering. The first week, it didn't chart. The second week, nothing. Sammy was vindicated. "See, I told you it wouldn't work." Then something strange started happening. Radio stations in the South started playing it. Not black stations, not jazz stations, but top 40 stations that normally wouldn't touch Sammy Davis Jr. The song was getting requests. A lot of requests. By the third week, it had entered the Billboard Hot 100 at number 87. Key Shea called Sammy with the news. "It's charting. So what? Everything charts at some point. Let me know when it cracks the top 40. 2 weeks later, it was number 23. Says called again. Top 25. "That's nice," Sammy said, trying to sound indifferent. But there was a catch in his voice. Hope, despite himself. By early June, the song was in the top 10. By the end of June, it was number 1. Number 1. Sammy Davis Jr. At 46 years old, after 43 years in show business, after hundreds of recordings and thousands of performances, had his first and only number 1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. And it was a song he'd tried not to record, a song he'd done in one take because he wanted to get it over with. A song about candy. The irony wasn't lost on him. When Cy brought him the Billboard chart showing his song at number 1, Sammy stared at it for a long time. "I should be happy," he said finally. "You're not? I don't know. This song isn't me. It's not jazz. It's not standards. It's not the music I love, but it's the biggest hit I've ever had. What does that say about my career? That the only time I got to number 1 was when I sang something I didn't believe in." "It says you're versatile," Cy said. "It says you can succeed in any genre. It says you're still relevant. It says I'm the candy man now. That's what people are going to remember. Not the Copacabana. Not my work with Basie. Not Broadway. Just this." And Sammy was right. The song saved his career. Suddenly he was back on television. Variety shows wanted him, concert bookings tripled. radio stations that had blacklisted him after the Nixon hug started playing him again. Young audiences who'd never heard of Sammy Davis Jr. now knew him as the guy who sang that cheerful song about making the world taste good. But there was a cost. For the rest of his life, everywhere Sammy went, people requested that song. Every concert, every television appearance, every interview. Sing the Candy song. They didn't want to hear his jazz interpretations or his Broadway numbers. They wanted the one-take wonder he'd recorded reluctantly in February 1972. In 1975, Sammy was doing an interview for Rolling Stone. The interviewer asked about the song. "It's the biggest hit of your career," the interviewer said. "How does that feel?" Sammy was quiet for a moment. "You want the honest answer or the diplomatic one?" "Honest. It feels like I spent 40 years building a reputation as a serious artist, and then I became famous for a children's song I recorded in one take because my manager begged me to. It feels like success on someone else's terms. It feels like I won, but I'm not sure what I won." "But it saved your career. Did it? Or did it change my career into something I didn't want it to be? I used to be known for versatility, for talent, for breaking barriers. Now I'm known for one song. That's not saving a career. That's reducing a career. Would you rather not have recorded it?" Sammy thought about that. "No. I'm glad I recorded it. I'm glad it was successful. I'm glad it gave me another decade of work. I just wish my biggest success had been something I was proud of instead of something I did because I needed a hit." The interviewer pressed, "But millions of people love that song. It makes them happy. Isn't that worth something?" "Of course it is," Sammy said. "Making people happy is worth everything. I just wish I could be happy about it too." In the 1980s, as Sammy's health began to decline, he softened on the song. He started to see it differently. Not as a betrayal of his artistic integrity, but as evidence that he could connect with audiences across generations and genres. In a 1987 interview, he was asked about it again. By then the song had been playing for 15 years. An entire generation had grown up with it. "I used to resent that song," Sammy admitted. "I thought it was beneath me, but I've come to realize something. That song reached people my jazz recordings never reached. It brought joy to kids who didn't care about Count Basie or Broadway. And maybe that's okay. Maybe success doesn't have to look the way you planned. Maybe it's enough that you succeeded. So you've made peace with it?" "I wouldn't go that far," Sammy said, smiling. "Let's just say I've learned to live with it, although I still think one take was too many." When Sammy Davis Jr. died in 1990, his obituaries all mentioned the song. Most of them called it his signature hit. Some called it his only major solo success. A few pointed out the irony that his biggest hit was a song he'd initially refused to record. Mike Curb, who'd produced that session in 1972, gave an interview after Sammy's death. "Sammy never fully embraced that song," Mike said. "He performed it professionally. He never badmouthed it publicly. But privately he always felt it wasn't representative of his talent, and he was right. It wasn't." Sammy Davis Jr. was capable of so much more complexity and artistry than that song showed. But here's what he never quite accepted. Sometimes the song that defines you isn't the one that shows your full range. It's the one that reaches the most people. And that song reached everyone. The song's legacy is complicated, just like Sammy's feelings about it. For many people, especially those who were children in the 1970s, it's the only Sammy Davis Jr. song they know. For jazz enthusiasts and entertainment historians, it's a footnote in a career full of more significant achievements. For Sammy himself, it was proof that success and satisfaction aren't the same thing. There's a recording from one of Sammy's last concerts in 1989. He's 63 years old, sick with throat cancer, voice deteriorating. The crowd calls for the song. Everyone knows which song, Sammy says into the microphone. "You want me to sing that song, don't you?" The crowd roars. "Okay," he says. "I'll sing it. I've been singing it for 17 years. I'll sing it 17 more, if I live that long. Because you know what I've learned? It doesn't matter if I like the song. What matters is that you do. And if I can make you happy for 3 minutes, even with a song I didn't want to record, then maybe I did my job after all." He sang it that night, one more time, with whatever voice he had left. The crowd sang along, filling in the parts he could no longer hit. And for those 3 minutes, it didn't matter that he'd recorded it reluctantly, or that it had typecast him, or that it wasn't the legacy he'd wanted. What mattered was the connection. The joy. The simple fact that a song he'd done in one take, in a studio in 1972, could still bring happiness to thousands of people nearly 2 decades later. Sammy Davis Jr. wanted to be remembered for his artistry, his versatility, his groundbreaking work in breaking racial barriers, and he should be remembered for all of that. But he'll also be remembered for a children's song he didn't want to record, the song that saved his career while defining it in ways he never intended. A #1 hit that felt like both a triumph and a defeat. Because that's the complicated truth about success. Sometimes it comes in a package you don't want. Sometimes the thing that saves you is the thing that changes you. Sometimes you win, but not the way you plan to win. And you have to decide whether that's still winning. Sammy spent 18 years trying to answer that question. He never quite settled on an answer. But every time he sang that song, through gritted teeth in 1972, with resignation in 1980, with acceptance in 1989, he gave people joy, and maybe in the end, that was enough. Even if he wished it could have been something else. If this story of unexpected success, artistic compromise, and the complicated nature of winning moved you, make sure to subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear that sometimes the victory you get isn't the victory you wanted, but it might be the victory you needed. Have you ever succeeded in a way that felt wrong? How did you make peace with it? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible true stories about the legends who showed us that success and satisfaction aren't always the same thing.